With over 115,000 units sold in the US last year, the Lexus RX is a very important vehicle for Lexus, and this was once upon a time the best-selling luxury nameplate that you could buy here in America, at least until Tesla overtook them a couple years ago with the Model 3. Now for 2023, there's an all-new 5th generation RX. It's been fully redesigned on the outside, on the inside. It's available with 4 different powertrains, and for you enthusiasts out there, there's now a 500h F-Sport Performance that is the most powerful and quickest RX that Lexus has ever built. So as you can see this week, Lexus has loaned me this 2023 RX 500h F-Sport Performance. And with all the changes to the exterior, the interior, to the powertrain, the big question I want answered, has Lexus truly delivered a sporty electrified crossover that will appeal to the driving enthusiasts? Stay tuned to find out. Now, it's not every day that a manufacturer adds 2 new powertrains, and while the plug-in hybrid version of the RX 450h is still technically not available, let's go ahead and talk about what's underneath the hood of the flagship model, the 500h F-Sport Performance. Now, I know that name is ridiculously long, but what does that exactly mean? Well, this is a new powertrain that we are first time seeing under the hood of any Lexus product. In fact, Toyota likes this powertrain so much that they also put it under the hood of the new Toyota Crown. This is the company's 2.4-liter direct injection 4-cylinder turbo engine. This is essentially replacing the V6 across the lineup. Remember, the current generation, the new generation RX, is now only available as a 4-cylinder, and with that turbo engine, it gets paired up with 2 electric motors, one at the front and a more powerful eAxle at the back that delivers 80 kilowatts. That's like double the power of the regular 350h RX. Now, the interesting thing about this powertrain is it doesn't have a CVT. Instead, it uses a 6-speed automatic, and the engine on its own delivers 271 horsepower and 339 pound-feet of torque. When you add the output of the electric motors, it improves that out to 366 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque. So again, this is the most powerful Lexus RX that the company has ever made. Lexus claims you should be good for 0 to 60 in around 5.9 seconds. That's about a 2-second improvement versus the old RX 450h F-Sport from the prior generation. Remember, there's an RX 350h hybrid also available and an RX 450h Plus that is still coming, although Lexus hasn't been ready to talk about the specs of that model yet. And then there's also the non-turbo RX 350, which has this powertrain minus the electric motors. It still uses a nickel metal hydride battery pack, and I believe it's a 1.6 kilowatt hour. So again, this is not a plug-in hybrid. It doesn't give you any electric-only range, and it has a top speed of around 130 miles an hour. Lexus claims the towing capacity is around 3,500 pounds, and fuel economy is rated at 27 in the city and 28 on the highway, 27 combined. This engine is required to run on premium gas because of the turbocharged aspect, and as it sits, the RX 500h F-Sport Performance weighs the same as the prior generation RX 450h at just over 4,700 pounds. But let's go ahead and close up the hood and talk about the exterior styling of this vehicle, because I really like what Lexus has done here. Now, this particular model that I'm showing you this time is painted in caviar. So this is a black exterior color that goes pretty well with all the black accents, including the black 21-inch wheels, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Black is never a great color to show on camera, but a lot of you really love black on black or whatever because it looks great when it's all cleaned up. You can see the F-Sport Performance gets its own unique F-Sport grille. This is the spindle body grille because of this new solid portion here at the top with the intricate L's that form like a mesh shape in the grille. You have the Lexus logo here with a front camera nicely integrated at the front, and then all RX models come standard with full LED headlights. This model here has an optional premium triple beam LED headlights that includes LED turn signals. It's like a $1,700 option. You can see this portion here is interesting because it looks like this is part of the headlight, but this is actually just a plastic piece. The headlight has this interesting curve here with the Nike swoosh with the LED daytime running light. You also get LED fog lights down here that's standard on the F-Sport model, along with more of these intricate L's. There are some functional openings, although some of them are also fake openings. But overall, let me know what you guys think of the styling. I actually really like the way the RX looks, regardless of whether you get the F-Sport package or not. I think it's a handsome looking SUV that really is a huge improvement over the prior generation. Now, this is built off of their next generation TNGA-K architecture. It shares that with the Lexus NX as well. And the RX's overall length actually didn't change for this new generation. It's still 192.5 inches long, same as the prior generation. Its wheelbase, however, is 2.5 inches longer at 112.2. It's also about an inch wider and an inch lower. So again, it gives it a much more aggressive stance. This car also has a little over 8 inches of ground clearance. So still decent ground clearance for those of you who plan to take this on a gravel road. Now you can see the F-Sport Performance includes these massive 21-inch wheels. You can see they are satin black painted, which is really nice. It's riding in a 235/50 R21. I'm surprised it's only a 235. It's still kind of a narrow tire. I think Lexus should have put a 255 on it to give it better grip. You can see the F-Sport Performance and the F-Sport models include these massive 15.7-inch vented rotors with a 6-piston caliper design. You can see it's a black painted caliper. I would have liked to see it also painted red for the F-Sport model. And you also have adaptive dampers, and you have body colored wheel arches. You have the F-Sport logo here, which you can see the background on it is black to show you this is the F-Sport Performance. And Lexus also says this model has rear wheel steering, but they didn't tell us how many degrees it actually turns. You have adaptive dampers with 4-wheel independent suspension. Now, over here on the side mirrors, you can see they are black with an integrated turn signal camera right there. You have the black accented window trim, black accented roof rails. You have a big panel glass roof, which is available as an option for like $800. And then over here at the rear, you can see it has the same kind of floating D-pillar design that the prior generation has. It's instantly recognizable as an RX. But you can see the rear has the newer Lexus design language here with the full LED light blade. You have the Lexus logo here, which is now spelled out entirely, no more L at the back. And then there's badging back here, 500H Direct 4. That's to play an homage to the rear eAxle that this car has that kind of has been taken from the fully electric Lexus RZ. You can see full LED taillights, which this area here actually kind of looks cool. It almost looks like intricate L's in the actual taillight design. You can see LED turn signal, reverse light. You have some fake vents over here and some fake vents down here, and there's no visible exhaust tips. Remember, a lot of these electrified cars are getting rid of their exhaust tips. But looking at the cargo area, this is where the Lexus RX was able to improve on the prior generation, which the numbers actually shocked me. The old model had only 16 cubic feet of space with the second row seat up. Remember, the third row model is gone. There is a new model coming that'll accommodate that. They'll be much larger, but you can see only 2 rows. Lexus claims you get 29.5 cubic feet of space with the second row seats up. You can see it's a pretty good amount of space, although that sloping rear roof does cut into the cargo hold compared to, again, boxier rivals. You can see underneath here, there is a temporary spare tire, which is nice. Your 12-volt battery is back here. You have a jack. There's not really any underfloor storage because of that. But if you fold down those seats, the second row seats, it expands it to 46.2 cubic feet. Now that's an improvement versus the 32 that you got in the prior generation, but you should know that the Lexus NX has a little bit more cargo space when you fold down the second row seat. So by the numbers, it's not impressive. So it makes me think that Lexus is just measuring the cargo area differently versus some competitors, because some competitors offer almost twice the cargo capacity. So kind of keep that in mind if you require the most cargo space. So some of you may question the newness of the exterior design for the RX, but let's go ahead and hop inside the interior, because that's really where a lot of luxury buyers are going to be judging a car. You can see here is the key fob for the new RX. It's the current Lexus fob. I was kind of hoping the company would put on a newer fob, a different fob for this model, but you can see it has the usual lock, unlock. You can also open up the trunk. You do a panic feature. There is no remote start on the fob, but you can access that through the Lexus Connect app for those of you who own the vehicle. Now you can see, just like the new NX, we have a traditional looking door handle, but this door handle doesn't actually move. There's a pressure pad on the back because it has their digital latch system. Just push that pad and that will electronically pop the door open. It also has a manual function where you can see the inside. You can pull that twice on the inside to open it, or there's also a piece right here that comes out. You can see that will also open the door for you. That pops out if you need to open it up because of the power going out. Now you can see my tester has the caviar exterior with the Rioja red interior. So you can get your pick between either a black or a red interior. I kind of wish Lexus would offer a cream colored interior on the F-Sport models. You can get that like a macadamia color on the non-F-Sport trims, but you have your choice of either black or red. I do like the red with the two-tone look. It's got the suede Alcantara. This is the premium real leather. It's got heated and cooled seats, and it also has a 12-way power driver's seat. Same thing on the passenger side, and you also have a 3-person memory function that you find here on the driver's side. on the dashboard. You can see the door panel has a nice soft touch injection molded plastic, this really cool ultra suede textured look with some red stitching. My tester also has the 21 speaker Mark 11 sound system, which sounds great. Red leather over here on the armrest pad where you'd rest your elbows. And you can see the window controls have a really high quality feel. It's all what you expect from Lexus. Down here you can see it is a soft touch plastic, although this portion here is hard touch, but this right here is nice. And there's also some door storage. Now you can see getting inside with 8 inches of ground clearance, the step in height is nice and easy. And then once you get in, you can see the interior is pretty familiar, especially if you've seen the new Lexus NX. Now get in and shut the door. The door has a nice solid sounding thunk, and you can see to start the vehicle up, just push the start button, which is located high on the dash. And you can see once the vehicle starts up, it's a hybrid, so depending on the battery state of charge and how cold it is, the gas engine will either not turn on or just stay off. It's a little bit colder today at 51 degrees, but you can see the massive 14-inch touchscreen here from the new Lexus NX is present. It includes their new Lexus interface software, which means you have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you have over-the-air updates. You can see my phone quickly paired to this vehicle. It started right up. There were a couple of times where it was refusing to connect to my phone, but this is a very early prototype model that they took from the Drive program back in California, so I'll wait and reserve judgment until I get a full production spec car. You can see there's a 7-inch cluster here, which is slightly customizable based off on the drive modes. You can see put into sport mode, which this model here, you can actually have it set in the buttons on the steering wheel. You can see in the heads-up display that you can switch between normal and sport. There is no physical drive mode selector here in the car, so kind of keep that in mind. For those of you who like to change the drive modes a lot, but you can also set up that system to have it in the screen, which is nice. This 7-inch display is looking pretty small. I'm surprised that Lexus didn't do a full digital dash, which they have available in some Toyota models, but for some reason Lexus just doesn't have the digital dash. In terms of the dash materials, you can see it's a soft touch injection molded plastic. There's some soft touch plastic here over the airbag cover, soft touch as well. There is some of that ultra suede that goes toward the back part of the front dash. This right here is a soft touch plastic, and then there's also some of the aluminum trim that you get with the F Sport model. The dashboard vents look pretty interesting here, and then there's also a full 360 camera with a perimeter scan. You can see this right here is kind of useless to me. You don't really see much. Other brands I think do a better job of giving you a full 360 top-down scan where the car just shows you a quick animation of what's around you, and then you can see again a really useless kind of display. But overall, I like this system. It works well. You can see climate functions are in the screen, but it always stays here at the bottom, so you don't have to look for it. You can see it's got heated steering wheel, 3-level heated seats, heated and cooled seats. You can also click the climate button here and adjust a couple of things. To close that out, you can see this is going to be reserved for the actual infotainment system. While the climate stays put, you have actual knobs there for the climate control. There's available 3-zone. This model here I think only has a 2-zone, actually, although there is a rear right there, so it does have a 3rd zone. Some competitors offer a 4-zone, so keep that in mind. You have dedicated quick buttons for the rear defrost, the side mirror defrost, and then you have more areas down here for some storage. When I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your backup camera with the full 360 view. That's actually a little bit better than than the prior generation in terms of the graphics. However, you can't do a full 360 scan like you can in some European or American competitors, so keep that in mind. You can see wireless phone charging pad is right here. More storage, you have a USB-C and a USB-A charging port, and you have 2 USB-Cs right there for charging, which is quick. This shifter here is electronic. You kick it over to the left to go to neutral and hold it there, push it forward to go to reverse, kick it back to go to drive, push the P button to go to park. And then you can see here, there's an off-road mode here, like a trail mode, and then you can also put the electronic parking brake up. There's a hold feature, and then you can turn on and off the stability control. Just like I said earlier, however, if you're looking for the drive mode selector, you can go to the car icon over here, and you can adjust some different settings and go to your drive mode there. But you can also set it in the screen with the heads-up display, but again, there's no physical button to adjust the drive mode, and this vehicle also has some ambient interior lighting, which is kind of similar to the NX, although the RX is supposed to have lighting over here on the dash, but for some reason at night I couldn't see that on my tester. Maybe it's an early pre-production car, it doesn't have the LED lights. There's a nice padded armrest over here, which opens up in 2 different ways, which offers a really good amount of storage. which is nice. I like the leather that's kind of covering the lower part of the center console here, which my knees can hit. So that's something that's nice for those of you with long legs. There's sport alloy pedals, which make the interior look sportier. And these sport seats, you can see, are comfortable and supportive. They hold you in place, but they're also nice to sit in. The heated and cooled function works nice. You can see the glove box is damped in line with felt, which is good. The rear view mirror, you can see my tester has the optional $200 digital camera rear view mirror. I'd highly recommend that. You also have LED lighting in here, and then the big panoramic glass roof, which goes all the way to the back. Would highly recommend that as well. So overall, the front seat certainly feels more spacious than an NX because it's wider by 2 inches. You have some great tech in it, aside from the fact that that screen I wish was a little bit, full screen. The steering wheel is the same steering wheel off of the NX. You can see you've got Lexus Safety System 3.0. This is the driver information or monitor that scans your face to make sure you're paying attention. You have a power tilt and telescoping wheel, along with the usual buttons on the steering wheel to control, again, some different functions here on the heads-up display. You can customize this. The horn sounds good. It doesn't sound puny, which is nice. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat of the RX, because this is the reason why you wanted to buy this over an NX. And this is where I'm going to tell you that the RX only has about an inch more legroom. You get 37.3 inches of legroom, which is actually a little bit less, a half an inch less versus the old RX. So that's sad to say that the legroom actually went down. Now you can get an option to get a power reclining back seat over here. You can see this one here doesn't have that option. The seat does fold down if you'd like, and it folds down almost completely flat, but you can also manually recline it by pulling this lever here, and that will recline the seat, or you can get the power recline function that will also include heated and ventilated seats. But let me go back here and show you guys the space. Once I get back here, this seat doesn't move forward or back. Get in and shut the door. The door sounds just as solid as the front. Material quality is the same, where you have that ultra suede with the red stitching, soft touch materials, padding right here, leather, and then you have, again, this digital door handle latch where you can just push that opens the door for you. There's also a door lock switch back here, because remember, electronic door locks, so you can just basically hit that, it's locked, the door is locked. Window controls, automatic up down for all 4, which is what I expect from Lexus. And then you have 2 storage pockets. You can see rear seat air vents, 2 USB charging ports, your own set of climate control, but again, no heated seats. You can actually get heated and cooled seats back here. It's an extra $700, which is nice. But my tester, as you can see, is lacking that feature. It also bundles in the power recline function if you get the heated and cooled seats. So highly recommend that. It's a nice feature that you can only get on the RX. The NX doesn't offer that. The seats themselves, however, super comfortable and supportive. I love the ultra suede, plenty of thigh support. The cushion feels nice and soft. And then, as you guys saw, there's an armrest here that folds down, gives you 2 cup holders and a little bit of storage. In terms of headroom, this model here with the pano roof gives you more headroom versus just the standard sunroof. But overall, if you're looking for a roomy back seat, this is certainly a little bit more spacious than the NX, mostly in terms of the width. But there are competitors that offer, again, a 3rd row or an even more spacious 2nd row, so that's something to keep in mind. So the Lexus RX represents over 1/3 of Lexus's total sales in the US, and that's a very important number. This is a really big car for Lexus, so the all-new 5th generation is a pretty big deal. I've already had a chance to drive this car out in California about 3 months ago. Now that I have this pre-production prototype car in my home area for a week, I want to see what I can do in real-world testing when I live with the car for a week. And let me tell you, this is a vehicle that surprised me. The current RX is such a boring car. This new generation, specifically in the F Sport performance grade like this model, is certainly going to draw in a younger, new type of buyer. But you know what? We're going to go ahead and first see what we can do 0 to 60 wise. Now, Lexus claims 5.9. I originally got 5.7 in my testing. Let's go ahead and see what we can get. It's in Sport. Ooh, it's spitting out the front tires a little bit. All right, 5.95 seconds there. So this is right on target with Lexus's claim. We'll see if we can get a slightly quicker time later on during the driving scene. But the performance of this car is certainly a huge upgrade over the old RX. That model took like 8 seconds almost to get to 60. It was actually slower than the non-hybrid version of the RX because it was heavier and it didn't really offer that much more power. This one here with 366 horsepower is certainly an improvement, but You know, Lexus could have made this even faster if they just did it as a plug-in hybrid, so I'm surprised they didn't do that. But hey, it's about 2 seconds faster, 0 to 60, so we'll take that. So let's go ahead and try it again here one more time. We'll turn off the traction control again. We'll brake torque it. Still spitting out the front tires because it's a little cold outside. It's 50 degrees, but the torque that you get from the electric motor is nice. I mean, 6.15 seconds there, that's what it's going slightly uphill. It's funny to me how this is an all-wheel drive car, but the front tires are spinning. Now remember, the eAxle in this car, the rear electric motor, is about 80 kilowatts, which means it's about 108 horsepower. If you translate that from kilowatts to horsepower, that is actually double the power of the rear electric motor in the RX 350h. Now keep in mind, this model here basically takes the electric motor out of the Toyota BZ4X or the Lexus RZ, although I think the RZ has a more powerful rear electric motor. Regardless, what the RX 500h does is it takes the turbo engine from the regular RX 350. They slap on 2 electric motors, the more powerful rear electric motor to give it more of a rear drive feel, and you get essentially is a car that has 0 turbo lag because the electric motor fills in that torque gap at the very instant you put your foot down. As soon as the transmission downshifts and the turbos spool up, that's where you feel that extra kick. That's where this car feels really unique to drive. It feels properly fast, even though the 0 to 60 times aren't necessarily quick on paper. In the real world, this car feels fast because of the instantaneous torque and the lack of turbo lag. And the engine noise itself, it's fine. It doesn't sound particularly inspiring. The 6-speed automatic goes about its business just fine. It's a little slow to shift. I'm just surprised that Lexus didn't want to use an 8 or a 10-speed in this combination. My guess is the 6-speed is the only one that could handle the torque, but put your foot down there. Ooh, this is a really early prototype car, so I suspect when I retest one that's a full production car, I suspect it to be a little bit more smoother around the edges. This car feels like it's an early build, which is interesting. It doesn't always put the power down in the best possible manner, but it does feel nice. The rear drive biased all-wheel drive system certainly helps to make this car feel a little bit faster. But let's see what we can get here really quick. Still spinning out the tires a smidge. All right, 5.7 seconds there. That's with me not brake torquing it. It's about the same time that I got when I was out in California. So we'll go ahead and we'll take that time. It's an appropriately fast time, although I do kind of wish that Lexus would have turned up the wick a little bit more. I mean, on paper, it's not amazing, but in the real world, it feels fine. You can feel, put my foot down there, the rear drive biased feel actually translates into a slight rotation feeling when you put your foot down, which is interesting. But again, that's not really the main mission of the car, of the RX. I mean, this is a sporty RX, but it's certainly no sporty SUV in the sense like a BMW X5M, for example. It feels about on par with the 4-cylinder Genesis GV80, or a lot of the base engines that you'll find in a lot of its competitors. An Audi Q7 is about this quick as well, although that's technically a bigger car. But overall, in terms of handling, the steering doesn't really translate much in terms of feedback. The suspension has the adaptive variable suspension, and we have rear wheel steering. Now, Lexus didn't disclose how many degrees the rear wheels will turn, but you really don't feel it too much on this car when I'm driving the car on back roads and whatnot. It just kind of feels sprightly, but this is the soft suspension, even with the adaptive dampers in the firm setting, you notice that it feels soft. This is supposed to be a comfortable car first, and that's kind of the mission of the RX. It hasn't really changed much from this model, although I will say the 21-inch wheel tire combination that this model has makes for a little bit more road noise that I would like. The engine stays pretty quiet, and at least you don't hear the CVT drone, but again, for the F-Sport Performance model, it's still pretty light on sportiness. It's sporty, but it's still comfortable. It still has great visibility. Lexus Safety System 3.0 here is standard. So I've got full speed range adaptive cruise control. I've got front and rear cross traffic assist, automatic emergency braking. And I noticed this car also, even when I don't have the adaptive cruise control on, if there's a car in front of me and it sees it, it'll actually start to slow down automatically for me, which is nice. It actually reminds me of some of the other Infiniti products that have that feature. which I wasn't expecting this Lexus to have. Now, in terms of fuel economy, I have been averaging putting around 300 miles on this car in a full week, 24.9 mpg, so 25 miles to the gallon, which is about 2 mpg less than the EPA's claim. Now, this model here has 5,700 miles. It is a very early pre-production car, so I expected the fuel economy to be better. Sadly, it's not that much better, although it is about 4 mpg better versus the gas-only version of this car, and you get, you know, an extra 100, almost 100 horsepower, like 90 horsepower. So that's something to keep in mind. Good efficiency there for a hybrid, but if you want even better efficiency, you're gonna wanna go for the RX 350h, and you're gonna have to give up about, I'd say about 1.5 seconds in terms of 0 to 60 performance, which I imagine a lot of you are probably going to do so. You don't buy this car for straight line acceleration. Comfort-wise, the seats have been really comfortable. I love the sport seats on this model. Visibility is good. The technology in it works just fine. And you get around 360 miles on a full tank, and it has about a 17-gallon gas tank, so it's not too much to fill up. I think I put around 40 bucks in it of premium gas. It does require premium because of the turbo engine. But overall, the 500h F-Sport performance is interesting. I'm just not entirely sure it's going to be an SUV that's going to attract enthusiasts. It certainly looks like an enthusiast SUV, but in terms of the driving characteristic, it still very much feels like it's targeting the typical demographic of buyer who buys an RX. So previously, the Lexus RX was the type of vehicle that really wouldn't get me excited. However, when Lexus first introduced this all-new 5th generation, I was very intrigued, especially with the high-performance 500h and the upcoming plug-in hybrid version, because as you guys know, that is a powertrain that is shared with the NX 450h and the Toyota RAV4 Prime. But I'll have to wait and reserve judgment whenever I get my hands on one of those. Let's go ahead and talk about the 500h F-Sport performance, because in the beginning of this video, I asked, is this car going to appeal to driving enthusiasts? And after spending a full week with it, I certainly think it's the most sporty RX the company has ever built. 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds doesn't feel, or doesn't sound great on paper, but in the real world, this car feels satisfyingly quick. In terms of the handling and the steering, it's certainly sporty for an RX, but it's certainly not going to appeal to somebody who's used to driving a BMW X5M or a Porsche Cayenne. The interior, however, is really comfortable and really well built. Even this pre-production prototype model is surprisingly Lexus-like in terms of the feel of the interior and the build quality. The seats are comfortable. The technology is also really nice. The back seat has enough space for most. And the cargo area, even though the numbers aren't wonderful, it is still a very usable amount of storage space. Now, this model here, in terms of gripes, I kind of wish that Lexus made it a plug-in hybrid. They really should have just beefed up the battery, given this thing over 400 horsepower. That would have made it more appealing and also more expensive. In terms of the pricing of this car, it is going to be more expensive. That's kind of the case for everything now. The base RX 350 with front-wheel drive starts at around $48,500. That's about $1,500 more than the prior generation. I'd say it's an uptick in price that seems reasonable. Now, if you guys want to go for the RX 350h, which I should be spending a week with that very soon as well, that's probably the one to get for most of you, because it's the hybrid model that replaces the old 450h, because that's the model to get if you want the best efficiency. 36 mpg combined, you'll be doing around 500 miles of cruising range, and that car starts at just over $50,000 for the 350h. You cannot get, however, the 350h as the F-Sport model like you can on the 350. And this model here, the 500h, starts at $62,750. That's actually lower than what I was expecting it to. It comes standard as an F-Sport performance grade, so you can't get a non-F-Sport if you guys want this sporty electrified powertrain. My tester here, with some of the a la carte options that it has, pushes the price to just over $69,000, so just under 70 grand. The destination charge is like $1,000, if I remember correctly. So again, 70 grand for an RX is expensive, but keep in mind, a lot of the European competitors are easily over $80,000 with similar options. However, the Lexus is a little bit on the smaller side, and if you need a third row, you're going to have to continue to wait for the upcoming model. I believe Lexus is going to call it the TX to replace the old RX 350L. So with all that said, I definitely love the way the new RX looks, the way it drives. I think it's a much better package versus the prior generation. I'm just not entirely sure this model here is going to attract driving enthusiasts. It will continue to attract the Lexus faithful who buy this thing But again, if you're looking to buy something that's the sportiest and quickest luxury crossover, there are better options, but this is still an extremely well-rounded vehicle, and I think Lexus has done a really great job with the overall redesign for the all-new 5th generation RX. Well, with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the flagship model, the RX 500h F Sport Performance. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram, Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.